After the college reunion ended, every one of us was forcibly bound to the Soulmate Matching System. Only two people who were truly in love could leave by lacing their fingers together. One pair of former classmates after another developed feelings under the pressure of being trapped and made it out safely. To keep our secret relationship from being exposed, Gavin Hart stayed exactly where he was. I understood his hesitation, so I waited with him in silence. At last, only 4 of us remained in the sealed room. I thought we could finally stop hiding. Relieved, I reached out my hand to him, but Gavin moved first. Before I could touch him, he grabbed Lila Lawson, who was trembling beside him. Ding! Soulmate verification successful. The door is now open. The system's voice rang through the room, and my hand froze in midair. Gavin did not even look back at me. He only left me with one hurried promise. Wait here. Once I get out, I'll find a way to save you. The door slammed shut. At that moment, I quietly watched Gavin shield Lila as they walked away. After 7 years together, it turned out the system's idea of his true love had never been me. But there was one thing he did not know. A few days later, when he returned with people to break down that door, I had already walked out hand in hand with my sworn academic rival. When we first learned about the Soulmate Matching System, the private room descended into chaos. I sat in the corner and instinctively looked toward Gavin, who was sitting at the other end of the couch. He did not look at me. He leaned back against the couch, calmly toying with a lighter in his hand. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Gavin had texted me. Gavin, wait. Don't let anyone find out. I replied, okay. The day after we got together, he told me his startup was still in its early stages and that investors did not like co-founders with romantic entanglements. He begged me to keep our relationship a secret. I agreed. For 7 years, I got used to pretending we barely knew each other in public. One pair after another successfully left the room. When only 8 people remained, someone suggested, Gavin, Jenna, you two are both single. Why don't you try holding hands? I took a deep breath and looked up at Gavin. With so few people left, even if our relationship came out, it would not matter that much anymore. But before I could say anything, Gavin put his lighter away and let out a soft laugh. Don't joke around. We're just college friends. I'm not about to take advantage of gorgeous Jenna. His tone was casual, but there was an unmistakable coldness beneath it. Everyone around us burst into laughter. A wave of disappointment rose in my chest, but it quickly faded into the numbness I had grown used to. I had long since gotten used to the rule between Gavin and me. In public, we never showed anything that crossed the line between friends. The door opened and closed again and again, until only 4 people remained in the room: Gavin, Lila, Preston Pierce, and me. Preston sat in the darkest corner. He had always carried a brooding air, and he had not said a word since the reunion began. But I could not bear it anymore. I stood and walked toward Gavin, wanting to go home with him. Yet the moment I reached out, Gavin suddenly stood and stepped right past me. He grabbed Lila's hands, which were tightly twisted together as she curled up on the couch in front of me. Before I could even react, the door swung open. They had already left that prison sealed by love. The room was not very soundproof. As soon as Gavin and Lila stepped out, the classmates waiting outside swarmed around them. Their teasing voices came clearly through the door. I knew you two were a couple. I was so anxious watching you in there. The system only recognizes real love, and I was scared you wouldn't make it out. Gavin, you hid that well. But honestly, it makes sense. Back in college, you always treated Lila differently, right? During junior year, Lila kept getting bullied by the girls from the athletics department across campus. Then, all of a sudden, no one dared mess with her anymore. We thought those girls finally grew a conscience, but last month their ringleader got drunk and spilled the truth. Gavin went to the alley behind campus by himself and warned them off. Slowly, I lowered the hand that had been hanging in midair, but my fingers would not stop trembling. During junior year, Gavin came back to our rented apartment one night with a split lip and bloody scratches all over the backs of his hands. I was so scared that I ran to a 24-hour CVS in the middle of the night to buy medicine for him. He held me in his arms and brushed it off like it was nothing. Didn't some street punks bother you before? I ran into a few local thugs shaking people down for protection money today, so I got into a fight with them. It's fine. I held my own. My heart ached for him so badly that I cried, and for a whole week, I got up early every morning to make him homemade chicken soup. So he had not been standing up for me. He had been playing knight in shining armor for Lila, and it had not been a one-time thing. That care had lasted for 7 full years, all the way until today, when they walked out hand in hand after the system verified them as true soulmates. The truth hit me so hard that my mind went blank. Only one thought remained in my head. I wanted to ask him what I, the girlfriend who had spent 7 years by his side, was supposed to mean to him. My phone chimed with a text from Gavin. Gavin, be good and wait for me. I had been hearing those words since the day we got together. When I wanted him to make us official, he told me to wait a little longer. When my parents wanted to meet the boyfriend I had been dating, he told me to wait then, too. And now, after leaving with his true soulmate, he still wanted me to wait? I replied, no need. I'll find my own way out. The message had barely gone through when Gavin called me. I did not answer. A long string of explanations came right after. Gavin, Jenna, stop throwing a tantrum. It's not what you think. The system must have made a mistake. Gavin, Lila and I barely know each other. Back in school, she avoided me whenever she saw me. How could she possibly like me? Gavin, I know you're upset, but I didn't have a choice. Lila is my client. Gavin, she was diagnosed with a terminal illness and hired my company to help her finish her bucket list. I couldn't just abandon a client. Gavin, don't make a big deal out of this. I checked the food and water inside. There's enough to last you a few days. Once I calm her down, I'll find a way to get you out. Every sentence sounded like he was coaxing me. Every word seemed reasonable on the surface, but beneath it all was contempt. I did not believe him. Thank God I did not. Because soon, the classmates outside mentioned me again. Hey, aren't Jenna and Preston the only ones left in there? They're going to be stuck for a while. There was a brief silence outside, followed by a burst of laughter. Making the straight-A overachiever fall in love with her sworn rival? That might be harder than killing them both. Should we help them along? Maybe push them to fall in love faster, so they can get out sooner. Enough. Gavin's voice suddenly went cold, cutting through the laughter. Stop messing around. Those two are impossible. His tone was certain. I leaned against the door and pulled the corner of my mouth into a faint smile.
Right.
He was certain I would never look at Preston that way. He was even more certain I could not leave Gavin. He was certain I would do what I had done countless times over the past 7 years. I would obediently wait where he left me, waiting for him to finish what he was doing, waiting for him to remember me again. What gave him the right to think I would wait? Just then, my best friend called and gave me the answer. I'm so pissed off. That damn scumbag. Just listen to the bullshit coming out of his mouth. I opened the audio clip she sent. In the background, I could hear the hollow echo of an underground parking garage. Gavin's voice sounded lazy, with a restrained roughness beneath it. Didn't you say you didn't like me? Then why did the soulmate door let us through when I held your hand? Lila, is lying to yourself really that fun? Lila was crying, her words broken by sobs. I regret it, Gavin. Back then, I only thought I wasn't good enough for you. You were so good to me. In high school, when everyone iced me out, you were the one who secretly left chocolate milk in my locker. When they locked me in the equipment room, you even skipped your final exam to climb through a window and save me. You even gave up a guaranteed admission offer just to stay in my city. How could I not love you? The sound of clothing rustling came through the recording. It's too late. I have a girlfriend now. Gavin's voice was low. It's okay. Lila cried even harder. I don't have much time left. Gavin, just for these few days, can you be my boyfriend? Even pretending is fine. Gavin was silent for a long time before he sighed. Stop crying. Why are you still so timid? You never even dared to accept the fact that I liked you. My hands shook as I locked my phone. I slid down to the floor, and my tears fell onto the back of my hand. But over these 7 years, I had once had what he called the deepest kind of love. 2. When I was hospitalized with stomach pain, he stayed by my bedside for 3 days and nights without leaving. When I casually mentioned that I liked the cinnamon rolls from a bakery on the south side, he stood in line for 3 hours in the snow to buy them for me. I was afraid of the dark, so every night, he stayed on the phone until he coaxed me to sleep. It was not because I was special. It was because he could be that good to anyone. No wonder that over the past 7 years, whenever anyone joked about us in public, Gavin always denied it cleanly and without hesitation. I thought he was doing it to protect our secret relationship. Only now did I understand that he had been doing it so he would not be tied to me at all. He regretted that Lila had not chosen him back then, so he hid his true feelings and settled for me as a safe harbor. Because I loved him, I would swallow every hurt and humiliation for him. I was the only safe harbor that let him sail off, anytime he wanted, to chase the regret he had carried for 7 years. But this time he was wrong. Now I finally understood the real reason. As long as I stayed hidden, he would always be the unattached guy from school in Lila's eyes, free to pursue her. I endured pain because I loved him. I could grit my teeth and swallow my hurt for the future we were building together, but that did not make me some pathetic doormat. Once that illusion was stripped away, the last bit of reluctance in my heart disappeared completely. I wiped my tears, stood up, and turned toward Preston, who had been sitting in the shadows all along. "Do you want to get out?" He answered faster than I expected, his voice cool and clear. "Yes." "Have you heard of the suspension bridge effect? When people are under extreme fear or stress, their heart rates spike, and the brain can mistake that rush for attraction. I calculated the system's threshold just now. If our heart rates go over 130 beats per minute and stay there for more than 10 seconds, we might be able to trick the access system." "Okay." He straightened and walked toward me. 1 minute later, the system's voice rang out. "Ding. Soulmate verification successful. The door is now open." I let out a breath of relief and tried to pull my hand back, but Preston held on tightly. He lowered his eyes to me, his chest rising and falling slightly. I wasn't holding my breath just now. I froze for a second, not understanding what he meant. Preston let go of my hand and took half a step back, putting a safe distance between us. "Jenna Blake, I don't need the suspension bridge effect." He looked into my eyes, speaking very slowly. "As long as I'm standing beside you, my heart rate is always over 120. My love for you doesn't need to be faked." The air seemed to still. In my memory, every time I cried in the library after coming in second place, a warm latte would appear on my desk the next day. Every time I argued with Gavin and walked home alone at night, a familiar car would follow at a careful distance. I had thought it was my imagination. "Preston, You don't have to answer me now." He cut me off. "I'm only stating a fact. The door is open. Let's go." I took out my phone and opened my Instagram DM thread with Gavin. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed a few words. I typed, "We're over." I tapped send, but the DM failed. His profile had turned into a blank Instagram user placeholder. He had blocked me. I opened Lila's latest Instagram post. In the photo, there was a handwritten bucket list. Item 99. I want my boyfriend to love only me from this moment on. The comment section underneath was lively. Lila's best friend teased, "That's not enough. He needs to remove every woman from his Instagram except work contacts. That's the only way it counts as loving only you." Lila replied, "He already did." I stared at the undelivered message and the empty profile icon. After 7 years in a hidden relationship, I was not even allowed a decent goodbye. My phone suddenly rang and I answered. "Jenna, it's me. Are you okay in there? You're not scared, are you?" "I'm fine." My voice was flat. Gavin let out a breath of relief. "That's good. Don't be mad about Instagram. It was one of Lila's bucket list requests, and this is for work. Don't be petty. Once I wrap up this job and collect the final payment, I'll unblock you right away. Try to understand me." His voice softened. "Be good and wait inside. Tomorrow, I'll bring people over to force the door open. Understand him?" Had I not understood enough over the past 7 years? No need to unblock me. I looked up at the night sky. Gavin, we're done. The other end of the line went silent for 2 seconds. Then Gavin let out a helpless sigh. Are you jealous again? I already told you this is work. I've stayed by your side for 7 years, and you can't even tolerate these few days. When I'm done, I'll buy you that bag you love as an apology. Be good. Stop making a scene. I hung up on him and blocked his number. By the time I returned to the apartment I shared with Gavin, the sky was already bright. I pulled out 2 large suitcases and started packing. Clothes, shoes, books. When I opened the drawer at the very bottom of the closet, my hand stopped. Inside lay a pair of custom wedding bands. The inside was engraved with Gavin and Jenna. There was also a groom's suit I had sewn by hand. Last year, on his birthday, he got drunk and held me while he cried. He said he knew he had wronged me, and that once his company went public, he would give me the grandest wedding. I believed him. Behind his back, I secretly learned how to tailor menswear. Needles pricked my fingertips until they were covered in tiny wounds, and stitch by stitch, I made that suit for him. I wanted to put it on him myself on the day he rang the opening bell. Now, it all seemed like a joke. I picked up a pair of scissors and slowly cut through the suit from the collar down, piece by piece. Then I threw it into the trash along with the rings.
My phone rang.
It was my mom. Jenna, when exactly are you bringing that boyfriend of 7 years home for me to meet? Her voice was full of displeasure. 7 years? What are you hiding him for? Is he not fit to be seen? Tomorrow is your dad's 60th birthday dinner, and you are bringing him home. No more excuses. My mom only knew I had a boyfriend. She had no idea who he was. Back then, Gavin said his career was not established yet and that he felt too ashamed to meet my parents. So I helped him hide everything. Gavin had never taken me to meet his parents either. He said they were old-fashioned and would not accept us living together before marriage, so we should wait until after the wedding. To avoid being discovered, I had only followed his mother on an alt Instagram account. Usually, I just quietly liked her posts and never messaged her. His mother had no idea who I was. Half an hour ago, she updated her Instagram. This foolish son of mine finally brought my future daughter-in-law to meet me. Lila is such a sweet girl. She's going to be okay. The photo showed her holding Lila's hand, beaming from ear to ear. The table in front of them was covered with food. Gavin sat beside Lila, gently peeling shrimp for her. So someone could meet his mother that easily. I just had not been worthy of it. I took a deep breath and said into the phone, "Mom, I'll bring him home tomorrow at noon." This time, I would not make another excuse. The next day, Gavin accompanied Lila to the amusement park and rode the carousel with her one last time. Afterward, he met up with his friend Kyle Carter, who leaned in and asked, "Gavin, are you going to pick Jenna up? You left her waiting for days. She won't be mad, will she?" Gavin rubbed his brow and let out a long breath. He had not been able to reach Jenna all day. He had tried calling from other numbers. She would not pick up. He texted her. Nothing came back. He thought Jenna was throwing a fit, but he was not too worried. After all, she had always been sensible. Every time they fought, he only had to give her the cold shoulder for a few days, then coax her a little, and she would give herself an excuse to forgive him. Besides, there was enough food and water in that private room. She would not be in danger. "Let's go. Bring the forced entry crew. We're picking up my future, Mrs. Hart." The group arrived at the door of the private room in a noisy rush. Gavin had just raised his hand to signal for them to break it open when his movement suddenly froze. The heavy door was wide open. "Why is the door open?" Gavin frowned. "Did we get the wrong room?" The friend behind him did not answer. He was looking down at his phone and suddenly, he sucked in a sharp breath. "Holy shit, what the hell is this?" "Gavin, look." He fumbled as he held the phone up in front of Gavin. Gavin's eyes widened. Kyle's hand froze in midair. The glow from his phone lit the dim hallway. The video was playing at full volume. On the screen was a round dark walnut dining table. I sat at the table in a simple white dress with no extra embellishments. Preston sat on my right. He wore a sharply tailored black shirt, the sleeves rolled up to his forearms. On the screen, My mom was holding Preston's hand tightly. The corners of her eyes creased as she laughed. 7 years. Jenna hid you far too well. We finally get to meet you today. My mom's voice came through the phone speaker, full of satisfaction she could not hide. The second Saturday of next month is perfect. We'll set your engagement party for that day. Family, old friends, everyone has to come raise a glass with us. In the video, Preston picked up the serving fork. He placed a piece of fish with the bones carefully removed into my bowl. I turned and smiled at him, and he looked back at me. With a soft ding, the video ended and automatically looped. Gavin stood in the middle of the hallway, his eyes fixed on the screen. He did not speak. Even his breathing slowed. Gavin, Kyle swallowed and tried to take his phone back. This is Jen No. This is a video Jenna's best friend posted on Instagram 10 minutes ago. My girlfriend saw it and forwarded it to me. Gavin ignored him. He suddenly turned and strode back to the door they had come to break open. The sealed private room was empty. There were still signs that someone had sat on the couch in the corner, and the bottles of water on the table had not been touched. She didn't wait for me, Gavin said in a very low voice. He took his phone out of his suit pants pocket, unlocked the screen, and started dialing. Sorry, the person you're trying to reach is unavailable. The automated female voice repeated twice. The call still would not go through. Gavin spun around and strode out. Gavin, where are you going? Kyle chased after him. Lila is still waiting in the car. Tell her to get herself the hell home. Gavin did not look back. He pushed open the doors of the private club, walked toward the black Mercedes Maybach parked by the curb, opened the door, started the engine, and slammed his foot down on the gas. The car merged into the traffic on the main road and disappeared into the night. At the same time, back in my family's living room, my best friend hit send after finishing the recording. Then she put away her phone and gave me an all-done gesture. I picked up the glass on the coffee table and took a sip of water. Preston sat in the armchair across from me. His back was perfectly straight, and his hands rested on his knees. My dad took a sip of coffee, set the mug down, and looked at Preston. Your name is Preston, right? My dad asked. Jenna says the two of you have been together for 7 years. If you've been together that long, why are you only showing up today? The living room fell silent. My grip tightened around the glass. For 7 years, I had been covering for Gavin. My parents knew I had a steady boyfriend, but they had never known his name, his face, or what he did for a living. Today, I had brought Preston home and told them he was the man I had been dating for 7 years. Preston did not look at me. He met my dad's gaze. Mr. Blake Sr., this is my fault, Preston said steadily. For the first few years, my career wasn't going anywhere, and my family had some debts to settle. I was afraid I couldn't give Jenna a stable life, so I didn't dare come meet you properly. He paused. Now the debts are cleared and my company is on the right track. I finally have the confidence to come meet you and Mrs. Blake Sr. He did not ask why. He filled in that 7-year gap for me perfectly. My dad nodded, and the expression on his face eased a little. It's good for a man to have a sense of responsibility, my dad said. Since you're here today, what are your plans? Preston took 3 document envelopes from the black briefcase beside him. He stood, walked to the coffee table, and laid the envelopes out in a neat row. Mr. Blake Sr., Mrs. Blake Sr. Preston pointed to the first envelope. These are the deeds to 2 properties under my name. One is downtown and the other is on the south side. The transfer paperwork is ready, and Jenna's name can be added to the titles at any time. He pointed to the second envelope. This is my most recent full medical screening. It shows no family history of hereditary disease and no infectious diseases. His finger moved to the third envelope. This is the share transfer agreement for 15% of Pierce Group. Jenna is listed as the recipient. The living room went completely silent. My mom looked at the documents on the table in shock. My dad frowned as well. What is this supposed to mean? My dad asked sternly. Our family may not be rich, but we are not selling our daughter. What are you trying to say by bringing all this out? This is my way of showing you I'm serious. Preston looked at my dad without flinching. I love Jenna. I don't want her to feel wronged in any way. If I ever fail her in the future, these will be her safety net. Gavin pushed open the apartment door. The living room lights were off. He slapped the wall switch, and the room lit up in an instant. Half of the shoe rack by the entryway was empty. The beige flats I wore most often were gone. Gavin strode into the bedroom. He yanked open the sliding doors of the closet. The closet, which had once been packed full, now had a huge empty space. Every piece of clothing, every dress, every bag that belonged to me had disappeared. He turned and looked toward the vanity. All the skincare products and perfumes on top had been cleared away, leaving only a lonely dust. Cover behind. Gavin's breathing quickened. He paced back and forth through the room. He walked to the nightstand and pulled open the drawer. The cheap little so-called anniversary gifts he had given me were gone. Then he suddenly stopped. His gaze landed on the trash can in the corner. He walked over. Inside the trash can lay a pile of black fabric scraps. He crouched down and reached in to pick them up. They were pieces of the suit I had cut apart. The subtle pattern I had sewn into the fabric stitch by stitch was still visible. He kept digging. At the very bottom beneath the scraps, he saw 2 silver bands. Gavin picked up the rings between 2 fingers and held them up before his eyes. The inside was engraved with Gavin and Jenna. They were the custom wedding bands I had secretly ordered after measuring his ring size on his birthday last year. With a sharp little clink, one ring slipped from his fingers, hit the floor, and rolled into the shadow. Beneath the bed, Gavin collapsed onto the floor. He took out his phone and called my best friend. The phone rang for a long time before she finally picked up. Hello. Her voice was impatient. Where is Jenna? Gavin asked. Are you blind? Haven't you checked Instagram? My best friend sneered. Jenna is trying on wedding gowns with her fiancé. Fiancé? What the hell makes Preston her fiancé? Gavin's voice shot up. She's just doing this to spite me. Give me the address. Gavin, do you think the whole world revolves around you? My best friend snapped. When you walked out protecting Lila, did you stop to think about what Jenna was going through? And now you want to play the devoted lover? Too late. The call ended with a flat beep. Gavin gripped the phone so tightly that the veins on the back of his hand stood out. He stood, walked to the closet, and slammed his fist into the door. The wood gave a dull thud. The skin over his knuckles split, and blood began to seep out. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, I stood in front of the full-length mirror in a couture bridal salon downtown while a consultant adjusted the train of my gown. Preston sat on the sofa, flipping through the wedding planner's proposal. Tighten the neckline a little more, Preston said to the consultant, looking up. The consultant nodded and reached behind her for a set of pins. The bell above the door chimed. Someone pushed the door open. The footsteps were heavy and urgent. I saw Gavin in the mirror. He was wearing the same suit from yesterday. The jacket was already wrinkled, and his tie had been tugged halfway loose, hanging crookedly around his neck. His eyes were bloodshot. He came straight toward me. The consultant jumped and stepped back. Gavin grabbed my wrist. Jenna, are you done throwing this tantrum? His voice was hoarse. Come home with me. I lowered my eyes and looked at his hand around my wrist. Let go, I said. I won't. Gavin stared at me hard. You blocked me, moved out, and even dragged Preston into this act just to make me angry. Fine, I can tolerate all of that. But marriage isn't a game. Cancel the engagement party, right now. A hand reached out and clamped around Gavin's wrist. At some point, Preston had come to stand behind him. Preston did not say a word. He only tightened his grip and forced Gavin's wrist downward. Gavin winced in pain, and his fingers loosened. I pulled my hand back. A red mark had appeared around my wrist. Preston stepped forward and stood in front of me. Mr. Hart, keep your hands to yourself, Preston said, looking at him. She is my fiancée. Touch her again, and I'll call the police. Gavin scoffed. He rubbed his wrist and looked past Preston's shoulder at me. Fiancé.
Gavin pointed at me.
Preston, are you that proud of taking my sloppy seconds? She loved me for 7 years. Has she ever shed a single tear for you? The only reason she's standing here now is to get back at me. Preston's eyes went cold. He raised a hand and grabbed Gavin by the collar. "Try saying that one more time," Preston said quietly, his voice full of threat. "Let him speak." I stepped out from behind Preston and looked at Gavin. "Gavin, you think I'm doing this to get back at you? What else would it be?" Gavin shoved Preston's hand away. "Can you honestly say you love him? We had 7 years together. You expect me to believe you got over that in a few days?"
Yes.
"I got over it. Because you were never worthy of me." Gavin froze. "You thought you hid our relationship for the sake of your career?" I took a step forward. "You were only leaving yourself an escape route. You regretted never getting together with Lila back then, so you took her on as a client. You tolerated all her unreasonable demands. You even chose to hold her hand at a life-or-death moment. That was the system's verification." Gavin shouted back. "She said she was terminally ill. What was I supposed to do? I was just fulfilling a dying patient's
Wish.
I turned and looked at myself in the mirror. "Then go be with her. Why are you coming after me? The dress fits. Let's go." "I won't allow it." Gavin rushed forward, reaching for the skirt of my gown. Preston kicked him hard in the shin. Gavin lost his balance and dropped to one knee. "I'm not beating you up because today is the day Jenna is trying on her wedding gown, and I don't want blood here." Preston looked down at him. "Get the hell out." Gavin clutched his leg and lifted his head. He looked at me, but there was no sadness in my eyes. There was only the cold indifference one would give a stranger. At last, he realized I was not joking. He got up from the floor and limped out of the bridal salon. Gavin returned to the company. He sat in his office chair, with documents piled across his desk. Ever since he had left the private room early with Lila, his so-called friends had not said much to his face, but more than half of their investment partnerships had quietly stalled. None of them were fools. Their 7-year hidden relationship had blown up in public. No one wanted to pick a side while the fallout was still fresh. His secretary knocked before stepping in. "Mr. Hart, Ms. Lawson is here." "Let her in." Gavin pinched the bridge of his nose. Lila pushed open the door. She was wearing a floral dress, and her complexion looked rosy. "Gavin, why didn't you answer my calls today?" Lila walked to his desk and picked up the water glass there as if it belonged to her. "Did you go back to the hospital for your follow-up?" Gavin asked. Lila's hand paused as she poured the water.
I did.
"The doctor said it doesn't look good. The cancer may have spread." She lowered her head, her voice turning tearful. Gavin opened a drawer, took out a document, and tossed it onto the desk. "This is your medical report," Gavin said, looking at her. "I had someone pull it from the hospital records." When Lila saw the header on the document, her face instantly turned pale. "It says mild gastritis." Gavin's voice was as cold as ice. "No tumor. No terminal illness. You still have a long life ahead of you." Lila took a step back and knocked over the chair behind her. "Gavin, let me explain." "You lied to me." Gavin stood. "You used my sympathy. You made me think you were dying. You made me leave Jenna alone in that private room in front of everyone. I only did it because I love you," Lila cried out. "In high school, you fought for me. You were so good to me. I thought you liked me too. But then, you turned around and got together with Jenna. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept it." Lila pointed at Gavin. "Didn't the Soulmate Matching System verify us too? We're the ones who are meant to be together." Gavin froze where he stood. All he could hear was a buzzing in his ears. His self-righteous kindness, the great sacrifice he thought he was making to fulfill a client's dying wish, had all been built on a clumsy lie. And because of that lie, he had lost the person who had truly stayed by his side for 7 years. "Get out." Gavin pointed at the door. "Gavin, get the hell out." Gavin grabbed the glass ashtray on his desk and hurled it to the floor. Glass shards flew everywhere. Lila screamed, covered her face, and ran out. Gavin collapsed back into his chair. He picked up his phone and opened my Instagram profile. He wanted to type something, but he realized there was nothing he could say. What could he possibly say now? That he had been deceived? That he actually loved me? It was too late. On the second Saturday of the following month, the Pierce family had booked the entire ballroom at the Intercontinental Bayshore. I stood at the entrance with my arm linked through Preston's. Instead of a classic white reception dress, I wore a sleek black velvet evening gown. Guests arrived one after another. 10 minutes before the ceremony was about to begin, the elevator chimed open. Gavin walked out. He was wearing the suit I had cut apart, now haphazardly stitched back together with crude, uneven stitches. The collar sat crooked, and loose threads stuck out everywhere. He looked ridiculous. But he did not care. He walked straight toward me. Security tried to stop him, but Preston lifted a hand and signaled for them to step back. Gavin stopped 3 steps away from us. "Jenna," Gavin said, his voice hoarse beyond recognition. "I know everything now. Lila wasn't sick. She lied to me." He pulled a ring box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a 3-carat diamond ring. "You threw away those 2 silver bands, so I bought you a new one, the most expensive one I could find." He held the ring box up in front of me. "I sold the company. All the proceeds have been transferred into your account. I don't want anything anymore." Gavin looked at me, his eyes red. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden you. I shouldn't have let go of your hand in that private room." His knees bent, and he dropped to one knee on the carpet. The guests around us sucked in sharp breaths. Kyle and the others were standing in the crowd too, watching the scene unfold. None of them dared step forward. "Jenna, give me one more chance. Come home with me, okay?" Gavin tilted his head up and looked at me with pleading eyes. I looked down at him. He had humbled himself completely. He had thrown away every shred of dignity, but my heart did not stir at all. "Gavin," I said, calling him by name, "you sold your company, bought an expensive ring, and knelt here to beg me. Do you think that makes you devoted?" Gavin froze. "Lila deceived you, and now that you've realized you made a fool of yourself, you're desperate to drag me back as your security blanket so you can prove you haven't lost completely."
No.
"I really love you." Gavin shook his head desperately. "Love," I said. "The love you talk about is something you can divide up and hand out whenever you feel like it. The love I want is exclusive. It means I am the unquestioned first choice." I lifted my left hand. On my ring finger was a plain band with no diamond at all. "This is what Preston gave me." I turned to look at Preston. Preston reached out and wrapped an arm around my waist. Then he looked down at Gavin on the floor. "Gavin, the show is over. You can get the hell out now." The ring box slipped from Gavin's hand and fell to the floor. The diamond ring rolled out, glinting coldly against the carpet. He did not pick it up. He only stared at me in a daze. "You really don't have any feelings for me anymore?" "Not at all," I said. I turned, took Preston's arm, and walked toward the ballroom doors. Music began to play, and the doors slowly opened before us. Light spilled out from inside and fell over us. We walked in, and the doors closed behind us with a heavy thud. Gavin and that patched-up suit of his were left outside for good. 1 year later, I sat on the patio of our new house, holding a watering can as I watered several pots of pothos. The sunlight was warm. A breeze passed through, making the leaves rustle softly. Preston came out of the house, carrying a plate of sliced fruit. "Eat something." He set the fruit plate on the wicker table and casually took the watering can from my hand. "You're always stealing my chores," I complained, picking up a fork and spearing a piece of apple. Preston smiled and sat down beside me. "Kyle posted something on Instagram just now," Preston said suddenly. My hand paused. "What did he post?" Gavin left Bayshore.
Preston looked at me.
So today's lesson is simple, folks. If a man says, "Just wait for me," for 7 years, you're not in a relationship. You're in the world's longest software update. Gavin really looked at his loyal girlfriend, his secret girlfriend, his future wife material girlfriend, and said, "Hold on, babe. Let me go test the Soulmate system with another woman real quick." Then when Jenna upgraded from Wish.com boyfriend to Preston Premium Edition trademark symbol, suddenly Gavin unlocked the achievement. "I have made a terrible mistake. And can we talk about Preston?" Bro waited 7 years in the friend zone like a sniper in a bush. Didn't complain. Didn't interfere. Didn't send "Good morning beautiful" texts at 2 a.m. Just sat there collecting evidence and interest payments. The second Gavin fumbled, Preston popped out like, "Thank you for your donation. I be taking the bride now." Meanwhile, Gavin showed up wearing a suit he literally stitched back together from the trash. Brother wasn't fighting for love anymore. He was auditioning for Project Runway, Emotional Damage Edition. So the moral of the story is, if someone treats you like a backup plan, don't stay on standby mode. If your soulmate test immediately matches them with someone else, believe the software. And never underestimate the quiet academic rival, because while the main character is creating drama, the valedictorian is preparing merger documents and property deeds. Remember, the best revenge isn't making your ex jealous. It's finding someone who chooses you first without needing a system error, a terminal illness scam, or a 7-year waiting period.